Next week, La Liga will get back to business with FC Barcelona at the top of the table. It could still be months before the Champions League returns, but Barcelona can still make the best out of a 2019-2020 season that has seen a change of manager, major injuries, and most importantly, a global pandemic. Unsurprisingly, the two men that sit at the epicenter of Barca's chances at a trophy this season are Quique Setién and Lionel Messi. Their efforts, leadership, and ability to get the team ready for this challenge are the differences between a Barcelona with a trophy in their cabinet this season and a trophyless campaign. Hi, I'm Dan Hilton. This is a Barcelona Podcast, YouTube exclusive. Without the work of Messi on the field and Setién on the sideline, Barca won't get a trophy this year. As Messi has said, football, like life, will never be the same, and any expected trophy has become even less likely now. Every team is facing its own challenges, as much as it seems like things are the same for all La Liga teams, and Barca is no different. We've already seen the changes in the scouting department and the player pay cuts, and a lot will continue to be in flux. That said, according to ESPN, Messi's future, at least for the next 12 months, is not in flux, as the exit clause in his contract for this summer has expired. It seems like a given because Messi has been at the club for 20 years and has already renewed his contract 8 times since he signed his first professional one in 2005. But with the recent unrest between Messi and some figures at the club, nothing was a given. It may just be lip service, but multiple teammates have praised the Argentine for his work back in training. And for a guy that is known for his cutthroat approach to practice, maybe there is something there. Even though Barca weren't playing their best football prior to the break, including that 2-0 loss to Real Madrid in El Clasico, Messi had scored 4 goals in the match before El Clasico against Eibar and converted the penalty that downed Real Sociedad 1-0 right before the shutdown. Even with an apparent nagging injury, Messi was scoring Barca to the top of the table, and a healthy and motivated Messi is the biggest reason why the team should be able to finish the job. Getting his pal Luis Suarez back should make things, at least offensively, easier for the captain. And if Suarez is fit in the way that the pictures tell us he is, even the defensive pressure from Barca's front line should improve. Adding Martin Braithwaite, subbing in and bringing his work rate to the equation could help Barca put together 90 minutes and take even more pressure off Messi. Unlike before the break when things seemed to be chaotic behind the scenes, and even during the pandemic, public statements from Messi were more focused on putting out fires than what was happening on the field. Now, and again, it can feel hollow without results. Messi is clearly motivated and feeling renewed energy for the conclusion of the 2019-2020 season. For a man who is constantly going to events and international competitions all year round, for years on end, to finally have had a few months at home training and recharging is a great thing for Culés. The recent abductor injury that could have him miss the match against Mallorca is bad news, but the sentiment still remains the same of a motivated Messi. Quique Setién, meanwhile, has a number of challenges as football has returned. He was 2 months into the job when football stopped, and it should be noted that prior to the break, his experimental formations already seemed to be taking a backseat to the regular 4-3-3 that the first team is more accustomed to of late. In the 3 months since the stoppage, Setién will have had time to at least over video convey his ideas to his players and get to know them on a more personal level. That said, how many of those ideas can be executed and brought to fruition when the team just returned to full team training sessions this week? The hope is that the players who were struggling prior to the break, including Artur and arguably Antoine Griezmann, can return and hit the ground running. For Artur, shaking off injuries and nagging issues will probably affect his performance more than any lesson. But for Griezmann, he could certainly be the force that tips the scales in Barca's favor, if he can reach the level Culés know he is capable of. In his defense, playing with Messi isn't easy. David Villa, Thierry Henry, and Neymar all took time to get used to playing at the Camp Nou. Griezmann has been the workhorse that he was expected to be coming over from Atletico Madrid, playing 88% of the total minutes in La Liga and 84% of total minutes in the Champions League. His output sits at 14 goals and 4 assists on the year, coming off a season of 21-10 at Atletico. As a Barca forward, as we know, it isn't always about the end product, but also the opportunities created for other teammates. He is second in that category behind Messi, but the eye test tells us that he can be even better. I think between the glow of Messi, the health of Suarez and Dembélé, the hope of Ansu Fati, and an appreciation of Braithwaite, Griezmann gets lost in the shuffle when we talk about who is essential to Barca's success. Setién's decisions and Messi's sheer force of will dictate the wins and losses, but Griezmann, along with Suarez, will be the difference between Barca limping over the finish line are once again being the dominant force in Spanish football. Expect to see a lot of Messi, Suarez, and Griezmann up top, and with matches every few days, Setién's decision on how to use his 5 substitutes and how he chooses to rotate will be critical. The Blaugrana boss told Sport that he thinks the 5 substitutes will harm Barça due to their desire to wear opponents down and capitalize on tired players late in games. This is absolutely true, but as Frances noted on this week's podcast, the drop-off in talent from Barca's starters to Barca's bench should be less of a drop-off than for opponents. That's an advantage for the big clubs. I trust Setién, but hopefully this is an instance when he turns out to be wrong. Even with the 5 substitutes rule, I do want to temper expectations of seeing much of the next generation. The best way to think of it is that this time is the end of the 2019-2020 season, as much as it feels like the start of next season. So expect to see Riqui Puig, Alex Collado, and Ronald Araujo continue to help Barcelona B fight for promotion back to the second division, as Francisco Pimienta's squad currently sits in second in a Segunda Division B group, 1 point behind first place Castellón and tied on 49 points with the other 2 promotion playoff teams, Sabadell and Cornellà. Lleida and Villarreal B are still in striking distance at 46 points, but they may not get the chance to slip in if it's decided to just start with the promotion playoffs, which usually take as long as 1 month. The big question for Barcelona B is what will be happening with Ansu Fati. With Luis Suarez back and healthy, Fati now finds himself 5th on the forward depth chart behind Messi, Suarez, and Griezmann. And as we learned before the break, Martin Braithwaite is in front of him too. In the Champions League, which Braithwaite isn't registered for, Fati is technically 4th on the depth chart until Ousmane Dembélé returns. Most likely, with an expanded bench and games every 3 days or so, Fati will spend the rest of the current season sitting on the first team bench and getting occasional time. It may be a better use of his personal time to play with Barca B, who he only played with during the preseason where he was the best player on the field, but the priority is still helping the first team use all their resources to win the Liga. Regardless of how many minutes the 17-year-old gets for the rest of the season, it's best to remember that this season for him was an unmitigated success for the youngster, and any other contribution he has is the cherry on top. It's tough to be hopeful about almost anything nowadays, and after this, I feel like I squeezed just a little bit of hope out of the next few weeks as Spanish football returns. As matches begin again, I hope you stay with us here on the YouTube channel and listen to our weekly podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It would also be a big help if you could give this video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. And as always, until next time, Forza Barça!